Alright guys, welcome to another episode of Learn with Lex. Today I jumped into a tournament with 25 big blinds. I'm going to be registering tournaments that are between 10 and 15 and 20 big blinds because I want to show you guys some short stacking. As you know, with Learn with Lex we do some episodes about turbos because I want to show you guys how to stay patient, but also how to play aggressive enough to preserve your stack. So let's jump straight into it here. We have Queen Jack suited. We only have 25 big blinds under the gun. We definitely want to raise this hand. Of course, when it's gonna get raised and re-raised, we're gonna fold. Had this just been the 4 big blinds, I would have called. It would have been only a little bit over 2 big blinds extra for me, and it's a hand that still performs really well against hands like Ace King, pocket 9s, pocket 10s, and for that price, even it's not even that big of an issue if they have a hand like Ace Queen. Of course, people do show a lot of strength when they re-raise a shorter stack, but still, we would have played this hand. Suited hands, we pretty much never fold in the big blind when there's a raise and a call. We're always going to defend these. They're going to flop flush draws enough of the time for us to make it worth it. You also have to think we only have to pay 1 big blind now for 8.5 big blinds in the middle. Another added advantage is that people are very unlikely to play our cards. So when we do hit, it's very likely that we're the only one to hit that pair. Now, of course, we're going to hit bottom pairs, etc. But in multi-way pots, people also check a lot, so we're likely to see the turn very often here. Of course, we're connected. We can flop a flush draw, and we don't have to worry either that we're going to make a huge mistake with our weak flush draw because we only have 20 big blinds. So it's really not a problem to defend these kind of hands multi-way, and this is a mistake that I oftentimes see. Remember, in the top left, we have the runtime, so you get to see every single decision from the tournament, and you can watch for the time passed there. If somebody does decide to bet this board, we're just going to get out. Obviously, drawing to a 2 or 3 isn't going to cut it. One of the other problems is the fact that if the 3 is a club, then we're not even sure if our hand is good. And with 5 people in the pot, we are just going to make a fold here. So one thing to really make sure is that you don't lose patience. This is a common thing that we talk about in the turbo segments of Learn with Lex. Do not start raising or jamming 20 big blinds with weak aces. This hand wouldn't even be an all-in if we had 11 big blinds or 10 big blinds. So don't get carried away with weak aces, because when you do get called, you're oftentimes going to be crushed. Also, you have to understand the lower amount of your big blinds, the easier it is to call for a hand like Ace-8, and they just have you in a dumpster. This hand, on the other hand, this is a great hand. Everybody's really short, or at least we are, so as soon as our effective stack, and when somebody says effective stack, it means the biggest stack in the hand. And since we have 20 big blinds, our effective stack depth is 20 big blinds, even though this guy has 116, or they have 47, or they have 134. Our stack is 20 big blinds, and that's what we operate on. The reverse is also true. If you have a 100 big blind stack, but your whole table has a 20 big blind stack, you're effectively playing 20 big blind poker. This is incredibly important to remember. So many people will start their hand saying, I have 100 big blinds, and this guy goes all in, and then it seems, okay, but how much did he go all in for? 15 big blinds. Okay, that changes the story. Obviously, very draw-heavy board, which means there's a lot of hands that could go all in against us, which is technically great. We're just going to bet. The shorter we get, the smaller our continuation bets become. So that's really important to keep in mind. That's one of the worst cards. We're just going to check back and see what develops. We don't really have to be too afraid. It's not like on the, for bluffs, it's not like on the river they're just going to make a huge play with 8-9, right? And that's something very important to remember. This is not a great board if they have a hand like King Jack for them either. We are going to check it down, though. I do think that hands like 8-9 will check twice. So we're just going to see the showdown and win against Ace-9, and that is fine. All right, very easy hand here. We see a 9 big blind all in. We're going to isolate all in. And we're going to be up against Ace-8. Oh. Wow, nice. Okay, hold that. I have a big tournament later today. I hope I'm not wasting my run good. And immediately into queens. That's really nice. So don't really have to think. Ace Queen, obviously, I think it makes sense for most people. Only 8 big blinds all in. Again, what do? We check our stack depth. We check the stack depth of the blinds. We only have 30 big blinds. There's a 17 big blind and a small blind. Therefore, opening to a min raise would be our preferred option here. And again, we have another victim. We're just going to call. They have 3 outs again. All right. right. Well, cool. Well, this is a short stack video anyway, so I'd rather stay short stacked, you know what I mean? Push fold ranges is something that people often ask about. People will come into my channel and ask, hey, what do I have 11 big blinds with king jack offsuit? Do I go all in? If you Google push folds charts, obviously on BBC Poker, they have all the charts available for all the stack sizes, and you can find what you have to do when you have 7 big blinds, 15 big blinds with all types of hands. Generally, it's good to remember that suited hands are much more viable to go all in with. And in that position, from any position at the table, 10 big blinds, any suited ace is an all-in, even under the gun with ace-deuce. So now we go up to 13 big blinds. And again, I want to caution you guys to not get impatient. There will be situations you can still defend big blinds. You can still shove from many positions. You know, it's way better to wait till you have 6 or 7 big blinds to shove with a decent hand than to just throw your tournament away with a hand like ace-6 offsuit for 13 big blinds in this position. Short stacking really is key to being a good poker player. Your tournament's not over when you have 6 or 7 or 8 big blinds. I've actually won many tournaments where I had less than 5 big blinds at one point. Of course, it's going to require a run, but throwing away your chances immediately isn't going to help you either. Over here, I'm going to fold the jack-8 suited. It's very important to realize that you need to have good high card hands when you go all in these kind of tournaments. I also want to caution that short stacking in bounty builders is very different because you're going to get called more often. So you want to shove more in the high card portion of your range, and you want to take out, like, you know, the jack-9 suited, jack-10 suited, pocket deuces, those sort of hands. So I just want to caution you because we're going to play a lot of short stack and in this video, and I don't want you to get to your bounty builder tournament and think, hey, this asshole told me to go all in, but I keep getting called. That's because of your bounty. Now, to this hand might seem appetizing. You haven't had anything for a long time, and you think, oh, I haven't had anything, I need to go all in. That's false. You really do want to look for hands that have a little bit more high card potential. A hand like king 10 suited would be a great all in for 13 big blinds there. Alright, so here with ace deuce suited in the big blinds, we have 13 big blinds. We're just going to see and wait what happens. If any of these people raise, I'm just going to flat. If people from a later position raise, I am going to go all in. We do have a slight advantage versus their entire opening range. They're going to have some folds, and now it's just the easiest call that we've ever seen. We're just going to call the 12 big blinds and are going to do absolutely fine. Of course, they have 5s here, and that's absolutely fine. We waited for a good spot. This is going to be an advantageous position for us in general, and I'm just going to re-enter. When you want to re-enter, I think it's important as well. I see some questions coming in about bankroll management. I think it's important to realize that when you play an $11 tournament, and normally you are playing these stakes, if you late register a tournament, technically the buy-in becomes higher because there's more variance in the tournament. Because you're going to be shorter stack, you're going to be all in more often, so it's really important to realize that when you normally play $5 tournaments but you buy in at the last second, it's now technically a $7 or $8 tournament. I'm not a math wizard, so forgive me if that math is not exactly correct, but that's what it boils down to. So be very careful. Also, if short stacking is not your forte, then it's really important to realize that you might not want to re-enter very liberally. Over here, we're going to min raise with ace-9. Again, we have 20 big blinds, so we want to min raise. And we get re-raised, and there's a caller in between as well, so this is just pretty strong. Also, their size shows that they're committing, so I'm just going to fold this. Over here, we're just going to call, see what happens. Our hand's not good enough to raise with, or our hand's also not bad enough to raise, fold. Over here, I'm just going to bet 1 big blind. They're going to fold a lot of insta misses. Also, we have a nice backdoor diamond draw and backdoor straight draws. I think I'm going to go all the way with this hand now. On the river, we have the 8. It blocks straights, it blocks flushes. The king is definitely massively in our favor. It's unlikely they just call the flop with the naked king unless they have king 4, king 5. But we need to turn some hands into bluffs, and it worked perfectly because the board run out is something that favors us. Also, I think people tend to raise flush draws on the flop when it's not that deep. Over here, we're going to call with the ace-8. We don't really want to shove suited hands, suited aces from the big blinds unless it's for value like ace-10, but not hands that would be bluffs like ace-8. Going to continue, of course, our ace-high could be good. Hearts are not going to be too much of a factor. Now, funnily enough, we do hit a heart here. I'm just going to bet super small. I just want to get value from other ace-highs. If they have 6s, they're just going to call us. But it might be less than they bet with, plus we can tax some other ace highs which work perfectly. So you can play around a lot with bet sizes when it comes to making these type of bets. Really nice result there for us. Okay, so in our next hand, we have ace deuce. We're just gonna call. We can call in position with suited aces, especially versus these positions. When people open from the earlier positions, we want to be a little bit more tight, and then we're gonna turn some of these hands into bluffs. Now, of course, you can make small re-raises with this as bluffs, but on the button, I really like flat calling with those. Good flop for us. Anytime we flop an ace, we should be happy. It's really good to sometimes check back when you have top pair. The best way to do that is when you actually have a bad kicker. You don't want to check back a hand like ace queen here when you sometimes flat call, because you just want to get value, and you're value cutting yourself, meaning that you're not making enough money with good hands. The best top pairs to slow play are always the ones with a shitty kicker, because there's some drawbacks to those hands. After this though, I have to say, unless the river is a heart and something crazy happens, after this I'm not folding anymore. So if they bet the turn, and let's say this would have been a 3 of spades and it would bet the river gigantically, I would have just called. I don't really feel the need to raise, because if we raise, we're pretty much almost trying to tell the story that we have a flush, so it's going to be very hard to get paid off. So we're just going to call, and that proved to be a good decision. Definitely one of the drawbacks as well. I will very honestly say, if the river hadn't been a heart, then and they bet 1 big blind, I could have raised. I think if the river was a non-heart, I would have bet bigger with a 9-7. So yes, you can say, oh, you know, we let our opponent get there. They hit a 7 on the turn, but that's not really the way to look at it, because then you're looking at it very situationally. You want to really think about what your overall strategy in this situation is, and when you check the flop back after they check, flop comes, they check, it is actually good for us to have some aces in there. We know this is a good strategy, so when they sometimes get outdrawn, we can't beat ourselves over the head with it and say, I should have bet. Because now what you're doing is you're tying the result of a hand to changing your strategy into a bad strategy, right? We all know it's good to check sometimes so that you don't become predictable, right? Because otherwise, if we check here, then people can just start blasting because they know we never have an ace. And now they cannot be so sure. But we still lose the minimum. We only lose 2.5 big blinds after they suck out on us, so it's not that big of a deal anyway. We're going to raise ace-8. Again, we do our customary look around the table. We have 17 big blinds though, which pretty much means we're always min-raising. We're going to take this hand to war. If anybody goes all in or re-raises us, we're going to go for it. It's a really strong hand. It'd be great to get it in versus them, because they're going to show up with a lot of weaker ace hands. Oftentimes people will disregard the fact that we're opening from a short stack from early position, and people will focus on their own stack and think, I have ace-6, I only have 6 big blinds, I need to go all in, which is absolutely not true. So I just want to caution you guys, for when you're in that position, make sure that you still look at the situation ahead of you. It's a pretty draw heavy board. When we get down to 15 big blinds, there's a lot of boards we only have to bet 1 big blind on. But when there's a lot of draws and straight draws, then it's still good for us to bet 1.5. We take it down, which is a great result. Straight into the next hand, where we're going to apply the same strategy. Now, one thing to note is that we now have 3.5 big blinds more than we did last hand, and we have a 1 grade weaker hand. So we definitely want to be a little bit more cautious with this hand. Moving forward than with the ace-queen. We get called in 2 spots. Pretty horrible board for us. Not gonna bluff at it. Just throwing money away. Especially the big blind leading at it. It's, you know, it might be tempting. You think, oh, it's only 1 big blind, and then somebody else calls or raises. And 1 big blind is definitely a very important part of our stack here. And there's 2 people behind us left to act. We still don't know anything about their range of hands either, right? Like, they haven't proclaimed anything. This person is always going to check to the raiser. This person hasn't even done anything yet, and we don't know anything. So we have a full small blind range. We have somebody that shows strength, and we have an unknown. It's not the best board to start peeling with an ace-jack there. King 3, if somebody min raises, I'm definitely going to call. It's a bit weird for me, because this is a hand that performs really well as an all-in between 15 and 18 big blinds when you're in a big blind and a small blind calls. And I was actually hesitating because I didn't know if I was going to do it, but I do want to just show you guys that there's some all-ins that you might not be expecting, and that's definitely one of them. There's going to be some hands when you're short stacking, like the king 3 in the big blind there. There's going to be some hands that are a little bit surprising, but I do want to show you guys those hands, and I'm not expecting you to immediately pick up on these kind of situations and think, oh, I can just shove king X when you know, I have only 16, 17 big blinds. But I still feel it's important to do good short stack moves, because if you learn more about short stacking, and you find these spots more, they're going to be very profitable, especially in the low stakes. Because oftentimes people think that there's more crazy play at low stakes, but one thing that's also very true is that people don't call enough all-ins. So if somebody calls here with queen 10 and there's an all-in, they will fold it, even though queen 10 suited would be a call here. So this can be a powerful move. I do want to explain that one of the reasons that this is really good is because I'll make hands like king 8, king 7, king 6 fold, which is massive for my hand. And back to the table, they raise here. We're gonna call. No reason to raise, our hand's not good enough for that, but we play excellently. And when they go all in here, it's important for us to remember that they raise from under the gun, and then I'm gonna just throw my hand away. That's absolutely fine. We're gonna call here. Even though we're short, it's good for us to see flops. Obviously, the world's worst flop for my hand. On these kind of boards, very good. On these kind of boards, you really want to start betting small. There's no reason. Sometimes people will bet 3 big blinds, but I have so many auto misses like this one that I can just fold. And you know, if I have hands like king high, I'm gonna have to defend a little bit. Nice. But definitely not with jack high there. So there's a bet and a call. You definitely might want to consider calling when it's only this raise here. Surprisingly enough, which is something that not a whole lot of people realize, that there is going to be some calls here when you have hands like queen jack suited. But for now, we're just going to go all in. Don't really want to play this three-way. There's also going to be less bluffing on the flop by them if we go three-way. And the likelihood of us getting called is just bigger. Too bad nobody calls, but still a good move. So not really anything much happening. You can see now we've been playing for an hour. We played approximately 10 hands, or even folded part of those, but that's about the amount that I talked about. We want to just stay chill though. The worst thing you can do is start playing bad because you're running bad. That's the very worst thing you do. The solution to being card dead is never start playing bad hands. We just have to wait. And for this video, I don't care if we're going to be at 10 big blinds the next 2 hours. I really want to drive home that fact. So I'm going to stay in this tournament for as long as I can to show you just that. So we're short, but these hands are perfect to still defend. We can still defend a lot of hands from the big blind. It's impossible for us to make big mistakes when we have a short stack, because the worst that we're going to be sailing it in for is 10 big blinds. So mistakes are very small when you're short stack. So it's very easy to just look at a flop, see if you have something, and act accordingly. This flop is amazing. We're just going to get it all in. And I expect still to get a lot of folds. They can have hands like, you know, ace jack that really doesn't want to call here. 6-5 we do fine against. We need a club or a 7. And we got it in very good, which is really nice. And something to, you know, always remember that you're going to get these spots. We got it in with a flush draw. We only had 8 big blinds. We had fold equity. I mean, it's just really good. I'm going to open another turbo because I want to play a little bit more short stack to see if we can get some more hands in shove scenarios. Guys, if you're looking for a place to talk poker, I have just the place for you. I have my own poker Discord. We can talk about anything, strategy, the poker news. You can share your brags, your beats. You can ask me for advice, or you can just chat to random people about poker. You will also be notified when I go live and when there's a new video out. So check the link in the description, join the Discord, and see you there. So over here, I re-entered a tournament. I just registered for a $1 tournament where I knew I was going to have a short stack, so we get to play a little bit more between the 10 and 15 big blind mark. Alright, so I have registered also the 1650 Hyper for this video because I want there to be a few short stack spots more. I think that some of the defending and all-in situations are very new to a lot of people. Short stacking is just pretty hard, so I just decided to add this video add this table as well. Over here we have a very easy all-in, just to give you guys some reference. Any pair, like 25 big blinds or less, you can shove versus the open of the cutoff. 35 big blinds, you can go all-in versus the button if you have 4s, 3s, deuces. Oftentimes people will ask the question, and this I think is one of the worst questions in poker, is what do you expect to get called by? And that question, you might have heard that a lot. You might have asked your friends a lot when they went all in with something. That implies that we always go all in to get called. But sometimes we go all in with a bluff. And if you're going to pick hands to go all in with, pairs do really well because a lot of the hands that you're going to call you are high cards, right? So ace king, ace queen, ace jack, you do really well against with pairs. And what nobody ever mentions is all the times that you win the pot when you go all in and nobody calls. So make sure you play pairs aggressively from the blinds versus late positions, not versus early positions. Then we start calling a lot. So we raised here. Before the flop, the board is dry as toast. So we're just going to bet one big blind. You can definitely start betting one big blind. We can combo this very easily with really strong hands. I don't think people are check calling with 9x, meaning that any 9 they have, this is incredibly weird lead. Don't think a 10 or higher is a lead ever here. When I say ever, I really do mean ever. I'm gonna fold it here though. Broadway cards, meaning 10 and higher, are always going to be in favor of the pre-flop raisers, so that's something important to remember. Over here, in the other turbo table, we defended the big blind with 10 deuce. It was a min raise, and this is just goes to show you can still defend every single suited hand against any position when you have a short stack is still a call on the big blind. Flush draws that you flop, you're not going to make a huge mistake against the ace-high flush draw because you only have 10 big blinds. It's very easy. If it's a dry board with a deuce or a 10, you want to go for it. If you have a flush draw, you want to go for it. If you flop an open-ender with a 10, you can go for it. It's very easy to see. And you only have to pay one big blind for 4.5 big blinds in the middle. So make sure you play very sticky still against min raises when you're short. It's so important when you're in the blinds. Okay, so we have a short stack. We're still going to min raise. When we have 13 big blinds, we still want to min raise our strongest hands. And there we get a call. We're just going to isolate. I think it would even be very suspect if we flat call there. If we have aces, we could definitely do it. This looks mighty fine. Oh, fucking interesting. Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah, sure, buddy. Okay, that's cool. Kings versus king 6 and king 9, but it's okay. All right, fine. Good spot for us. All right, so here we have kings. We're going to try again. See if we have a better result. If we have 11 big blinds, I can still min raise. However, once we get down to this, we just fold or go all in. This is a little bit different. I just want to mention it. On final tables, you can still min raise a lot from 8 or 9 big blinds, or sometimes even 7. Oh no. I want to get called. This is great. We double up, and I mean, obviously it's easy to say when I have kings and double up. We're just going to continue with the min raise here. It's very easy for me to say when we have kings and I double up, but you see here, like 2 hands back to back. That other hands with kings should have put us at like 30 big blinds. Now we're down at 7.5 big blinds, and we still get a really good spot. And now all of a sudden, you know, we have a lot of space again. We check boards when we're pre-flop raiser a lot when they have high cards on them. When we're out of position, but this is definitely a board I want to bet a lot. So we're just going to continue and play for stacks also very easily. That's a great board. Don't just jam. I see a lot of people make a mistake when they have a short stack. That when they have one time the pot on the flop that they feel like on a certain street, when they have 1 times the pot that they feel like they need to go all in, you don't have to do this. There's still sizings like this that you can use. For both bluffs and value, by the way. All right, on the other turbo table, we're going to go all in with jacks, 6.5 big blinds. Again, it illustrates, though, we've been patient. And I'm not saying that you're always going to wait and you get kings and you get jacks and that sort of stuff. But there will be a situation where you're like, this is a good spot to go all in with. And look at this. If we get called 6.5 big blinds, we have 16 bigs. We have nothing to worry about again. And 16 bigs, like if you're patient and you don't panic, it's actually a whole lot. And you can defend big blinds, and you can min raise bluff from under the gun, and you can do all these things that you don't really take for granted. So It's very important to just be aware of it. There you go. We got called by 9-7. This is also, you see, like, people just start calling you with these random hands, and you just get the easiest double up. And now we have 14 big blinds. And it only takes like it only takes a second, like you just saw in the kings with the other table. If I win that hand versus king, like you blind down, you get a limp versus king 6 and king 9, and all of a sudden you can be at 30 big blinds. It just stuff like that can happen so quickly. I'm gonna fold 5s here. You don't really, even though this is 6-handed, if let's say they have 30 big blinds, which means they're gonna open wider, and we have like 14, 15 big blinds, I'm going all in, but this just makes it a little bit too expensive versus a strong opener, right? They have a short stack, which means they're gonna play tighter and raise less hands from early position. If they raise from here and I'm in the small blind or I'm in the button, it's an instant all in. So, you know, don't just look at stack size, also really look at big blinds. I'm actually glad I grabbed the second table. I think this is a good point to end it on. I really hope you learned something. I have a big day 2 starting. I really hope you learned something from this. I think that short stacking can be an art. There are some people that are incredibly tough when they play from a short stack, and I think this is always really important to remember. Good luck, stay patient, and as always, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I really enjoy you guys' feedback on these series, and I hope you enjoyed. All right, so thank you, and see you next time.